Elimination means you're going to eliminate one of the variables or get rid of one of the variables in order to solve for the other. So, first of all, equations must be in standard form. So if you forgot what standard form is, it's the ax plus by equals c form. And again, I'll show you that. And here are the steps to solving. So step one, it might not have to happen, but for step one, you have to multiply the entire equation to make sure at least one of the coefficients is opposite. And again, I'll show you that. Step two, choose to add or subtract the equations to eliminate one of them, and then you're going to solve what's left. And then the last step is you have to put the value that you just equations to solve for the remaining variable. And again, your answer has to be listed as an ordered pair because that's the numbers that are going to be the solution to the equations. Okay, so an example here, we've got negative 2x plus 3y equals 4 and 2x minus y equals negative 8. So first of all, you can see that both of these are in standard form. It's the something x, ax plus by equals c. So do you see how both of those are in that form? And both of those would actually be pretty annoying to undo into y equals, but I mean you could also solve this by substitution. But this is ready to go for elimination. So step one says to multiply, if necessary, the entire equation to make sure at least one coefficient is opposite. Here's what we're looking for opposite coefficients. These or these. Whoops, this number here. So I can tell right away that this negative 2 and this positive 2 are opposite coefficients. And by opposite coefficient, we just means one's positive and one is negative. Okay, so I can see here that this negative 2 and positive 2 are already ready to go for opposites, so I can actually skip step 1. Step 1, don't even have to do it. Okay, so step 2, choose to add or subtract the equations to eliminate one of them. So here's the part where you get to choose if you are adding or subtracting. Okay, so here's what we mean by that. We are actually going to put a big line underneath this, and we're going to add and subtract vertically like you did in first grade. And I'm going to put a box over here, and inside this box I have to put the sign that's going to make these 2's eliminate. So what I mean by that is this negative 2 and this positive 2 can cancel, but they will only cancel if I add. So I'm going to put an add sign in here because when I add those are going to eliminate. So literally negative 2 plus 2 is 0x. So I'm going to put a big X through them. I do not write 0x down there. That's not really going to help, so just leave it off. Okay, now I have to continue adding the rest of my columns. So I'm going to add this column here, and I have to add this column here. And I'm adding because it says add over here. You can make that subtract, but then it's not going to cancel anything. So that's what I'm saying. You get to choose if you're adding or subtracting. So I'm going to go ahead and slide a 1 in here, and then I'm going to add my terms. So 3y plus negative 1y is 2y. 4 plus a negative 8, negative 4. So now all I'm left with is a one-step problem. Whoops. Divide by 2 and divide by 2, and you get y equals negative 2. So part of my answer is going to be a negative 2 into the y spot. Okay, now let's go back up to our steps. Put the value you just found into any of the equations to solve for the other. So when you go back to solve for y, or excuse me, for x, you get to go back to either this equation or this equation. Alright, so it doesn't really matter which one you pick. I'm going to go to the top one just because I feel like it. So again, the top equation says negative 2x plus 3y equals 4. But now I know that the y value is negative 2. So I'm going to take the y out and put in negative 2. So I have negative 2x plus 3 times negative 2 equals 4. Negative 2x minus 6, because 3 times negative 2 is 6, negative 6 equals 4. And then I just go plus 6 plus 6. Negative 2x equals 10. Divide by negative 2, divide by negative 2, x equals negative 5. So the x value has to come all the way up here, and it's negative 5. So the y came from the elimination, and then the x comes from you just substituting what you found. Okay, so this next example, again, I'm trying to figure out, can I add or subtract to make my coefficients disappear? And if I'm looking here, this, if I add or subtract it, it's never going to disappear. This, if I add or subtract it, it's never going to disappear. So this is that step one that we got to skip on that first one. It says multiply, if necessary, these one coefficient. If I would just double this top one, then I could cancel. So what it means is this entire equation has to get taken times 2 in order for me to be able to match it up with that -6. So I'm going to take this times 2, this times 2, and this times 2. Because remember, we're trying to eliminate. So if I take 3 times 2, that becomes a 6. If I take 2 times 2, that becomes a 4. And if I take -2 times 2, that becomes a -4. So again, I've changed it for the sake of that I want to delete it, but I haven't really changed the problem because I've just doubled all the numbers. So now I can see that if I put an addition sign here, that's going to cancel because 6 plus a -6 is 0. So remember, when you cancel, don't put a 0x down here. That's just going to confuse you. You just get to exit out. Then you have to continue with the rest of your columns. So 4y plus -5y, -1y, -4 plus 2, -2. So divide by -1, divide by -1, and automatically we have an answer of y equals 2. So again, my y goes in the second spot. So now, so this last example, again, I do not see any variables that I could simply put an add or subtract sign here because something's going to have to multiply. I am going to put a 1 in here and a 1 right here just to make it look a little bit nicer. And so now, again, I get to choose. Well, for the x value, if I take this times 4, it'll go to that. And for the y value, if I take this one times 4, it will go back to this one. So again, choose whichever one you want to. I'm just going to go ahead and do this top one. And I'm going to take it times 4 so that I can cancel my x value. So times 4, and times 4. The entire equation has to get taken times 4. So 1 times 4 is going to become a 4. 4 times 4 is going to become 16. And 22 times 4 is going to become an 88. So again, I just take the time to distribute to all of those things so I can see what's happening. And now I can see that my 4x and my 4x are going to cancel by subtraction. So I have to subtract if I want these to disappear. So again, 4x minus 4x is 0x. Don't bother writing it. 16y minus 1y is going to be 15y. And 88 minus 13 is going to be 75. So, easy one-step problem. Divide by 15, and you get y equals 5. So again, your ordered pair is going to be y equals 5. So we put a 5 in the y spot. So now we have to go back to the equation. You can use either one of these. You can use this one or this one. I'm going to go with the bottom one because it's smaller numbers. 4x plus 1y equals 13, but now I know the y is 5. So 4x plus 1 times 5 is 5 equals 13, minus 5 minus 5. You get 4x equals, that's 5 equals 8. Divide by 4, x equals 2. So in the 2 spot, it's going to, or in the x spot, it's going to be a 2. So 2, 5 would be your solution.